All right, everyone, and hello. And this is Shepard back with some really interesting results on testing followers. So if you've ever wondered what are the best followers to bring, is it worth bringing followers? Do follower pets deal more damage than the followers themselves? Stick around. We've got some great information here. I'm going to show you in pretty granular detail how all the followers rank among their damage across each other, as well as within their own weapons, how positive their item usages are, so whether or not they're helping out a lot with their items, as well as the hunting horn song lists and which hunting horns are worth bringing along. And then right along at the end, I'm going to show you some certain pairings of followers that work together fairly well, depending on what other weapon and style you're using. And lastly, I'm just going to go over a little bit over my testing methodology in case you wanted to keep testing out things on your own. Just to address some long-standing rumors, first of all, followers do not increase the HP of the monsters in any way. There's no additional scaling whether you go solo or whether you go with 2 followers and 2 of your own companions, be they palicos or palamutes. Secondly, the followers' pets do very little damage. Their pets are not doing more damage than the followers themselves. They do some damage, and in fact, some followers will occasionally have pets that will flinch the monster in some way. I think it's either Hinoa or Utsushi's dog will go in and bite the monster, giving it a small flinch. So you'll get some small benefits from that, but no incredible amounts of damage. Okay, so with that out of the way, there's 10 followers in the game: Fioraine, Gallius, Luchika, Arlo, Jay, Rondine, Fugin, Hinoa, Minoto, and Utsushi. If you don't have them all unlocked yet, you're going to want to go to the follower quests, and I believe the follower quests are the one that unlock the various things. So make sure to do these if you don't have all of them yet already. Otherwise, we're going to go through, we're going to rank the follower's status in damage out of 10. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about their item loadouts in terms of like how it ranks in terms of supporting you while you're hunting. So first up is Fioraine. Fioraine is the definition of average with her sword and shield, which seems to be her best weapon, certainly has her best AI. She ranks at about a 4 out of 10 in terms of damage ranked across the other followers. Her support, I would also say, is about average. She'll occasionally drop a pitfall trap. She'll drop a life powder. But outside of that, she doesn't really stand out in any particular way, which is a little bit of a shame. As a character, voice lines and whatnot in the story, I really liked her. But unfortunately, as somebody that supports you in combat, she is just average. Next up is Gallius. Gallius, with his switch axe, actually ranks slightly above Fioraine. He's actually comes in very close to the top. I had him at about a 3 out of 10 ranked across the other followers. I think that's because he gets both focus as well as rapid morph 3. Earplugs 3 probably doesn't hurt him all that much either. But he's really almost towards the top in terms of consistent damage with his switch axe. His support with items, I actually ranked as the top in the game. So Gallius does have wide range 5, and he has a lot of items that he'll use, and there might actually be even more than this, but these are the ones I was able to track so far. So he will use null berries, dash juice, mite seeds, adamant seeds, demon powder, and an immunizer. So immunizer, if you didn't know, will give you a little bit of passive healing over time, which is, of course, pretty great if you're running Berserk. It'll help keep you alive a little bit longer. Between the mite seed and the demon powder, mid-combat, as long as he's using those, that's an additional 20 raw, which is pretty great in and of itself. It's not exactly as good as attack up from a hunting horn, but it's getting close in case it's dropped off on you. Dash juice, of course, doesn't help out too much if you're using Berserk and Strife, but if you're not using that, then it's a little bit of a help there. Luchika, as you would imagine, ranks very highly with damage. She's at the top. I had some conflicting results in terms of which weapon worked out best. There's considerations depending on what it is that you want from her. So bow was the most variable, but I did find that she had the highest damage there. I did see that she would occasionally hit with some paralysis shots, which will occasionally actually get a full para off. Light bowgun, she'll use sticky shots. It was a little bit less damage. It was a little bit more consistent than bow. but it didn't have the peaks that Bo did. And she will very rarely be able to actually get a KO. Interestingly enough, followers don't have a set bag. So when they want to use an item, they literally spawn it into their backpack, which is kind of bizarre. Heavy bowgun, a little bit more status orientated than our light bowgun. You will get almost definitely a para and a little bit of a better chance of getting a KO there. But I think because of the movement speed on it, the damage ended up a little bit lower than light bowgun. Can't go wrong with any of them. It's really just a matter of what you want to do. Her support for items is below average, but if you are sleeping things regularly, she will drop bombs immediately as soon as something sleeps. So that could be an extra 600, 800, whatever damage in terms of what you brought yourself. But it is worth noting that she will always do that. As for her KO and status, it's pretty good. Arlo, pretty much middle of the pack. It seems like he's the best off with Charge Blade. Makes a little bit of sense. He's got focus. He has artillery and those other things. His issue, I think, is his AI. So you look at him, you're like, man, he should be really good with either Charge Blade or Gun Lance, but it just doesn't really feel like he knows how to use the weapon. He ranked at 5 out of 10. Just really middle of the pack. And especially like with weakness exploit and attack boost 6, you'd expect more damage, but it's just not there. His support, I put him at below average towards the bottom. He used a hard shell powder. So really not worth bringing for damage, not worth bringing for any sort of item support as well. I'd love to see him adjusted in the future with some better AI and see what he could actually come up with. Jay with Switch Axe, really good damage. Makes sense. He's got focus. He's got rapid morph 3. He ranked 2 out of 10 with that weapon. And it's consistent. So, if you were able to be running like something like Hunting Horn or something like that to keep them alive, Luchika and Jay together would pair pretty well in terms of just total damage. And oddly enough, his item support, I would say it about is average. I've seen him drop shock traps before. I've even seen him pull a whale nard out, the thing that will, draw a monster into your area, which can be pretty helpful. You could either get a write-off on it. You might see a turf war come up. Any number of things could happen, but it's a unique item that he'll bring out from time to time, which will help a little bit in the process of the hunts. Rondine, again, kind of following the normal trend. I tried her with Switch Axe. Again, she's got some pretty good skills here, and she's got Rapid Morph 3, but unfortunately, she's still ranked 6 out of 10. So I'm not sure if it's her AI. A little bit that you'll see with her pretty regularly is she'll drop a trap and she'll just stand behind it, taunting the monster. And if the monster doesn't go into the trap, she's just going to stand there doing nothing. As for her item support, it is slightly above average. You'll see her use hard shell powders and demon powders. And then, of course, I said a shock trap as well. I've seen her use flash bombs before, but I didn't record it in my testing with her, but that's something that she'll occasionally do as well. So if you just wanted a lot of item support for whatever reason, she's definitely above average pick. Fugin was a little sad. For somebody that's got this much crit eye, this much attack boost, this much crit boost, this much weakness exploit, and focus, I expected a lot. Issue is that dual blades, of course, he's using non-elemental dual blades, so there's not much damage there. Longsword requires actually knowing how to play the weapon. So I was hoping that with Hammer he'd be able to keep up, but no matter how much I tried with him, I would still say he's about a 7 out of 10. So, again, with some AI boosts, maybe in a future title update, I could see him being really good. He should be really good, but either because of the weapon he has or because of his AI, he's just constantly held back. I put his support at average. He doesn't heal you that often, but he does have sleep frogs, poison frogs, and blast frogs. I haven't seen it, but he probably also has a parafrog as well. If you have a quest that goes on for 10 minutes, you can pretty much expect that he'll use 2 frogs over the course of the quest. So those could be either completely useless or really, really helpful, depending on when and where he decides to drop them. Hinoa, damage-wise, is a little surprising. At one point, I thought she was doing okay damage with light bowgun, but testing it, she is pretty much at the bottom at 10 out of 10 with her damage. But that's okay. She makes up for it in a lot of ways. Her item support, her healing is basically the best in the game. She'll occasionally use Dusts of Life. She'll drop the escargot, and she will also drop life powders as well, things like that. even though her damage is at bottom with light bowgun, it's worth mentioning that whenever we're talking about Hunting Horn, for whatever reason, Hunting Horns get an additional penalty when they're on followers, and you can expect the follower to do even less damage, maybe up to half of the damage of even Hinoa with a light bowgun if you put anyone on Hunting Horns. So Hunting Horns we're going to talk about a little bit separately at the end of this section, but they are doing a very small amount of damage. Minoto with Lance is a little interesting. She ranked at about 8 out of 10 with Lance. She does technically have diversion. I don't think this necessarily pulls monster aggression as often as it should, but if you are using Gun Lance and you're using the back attack or any weapon that you're using back attack, but especially Gun Lance with back attack, she could be an interesting person to bring along in order to do that. If you're doing maybe, God help you, sticky bowgun or something like that. Again, she might help distract the enemy a little bit. As for damage itself, though, definitely on the bottom ends of the scale. Not that great. As for items, I put it at average. I saw her use hard shell powders. I didn't directly see her use any when I was using her, but she should use life powders. I believe I've seen her use stink minks before, but I didn't get any footage of her using it. So compared to everyone else, just at about average. Utsushi's interesting. So Utsushi can use any weapon in the game. Unfortunately, he's bad with all of them. I put his damage at a 9 out of 10. He's got access to all these weapons, and yet he still only came out a 9 out of 10 with his switch axe. So just barely edging out Hinoa with a light bowgun. And that's with Rapid Morph 3. So really unfortunate. His support skill is bottom. I've only ever seen him use a flash bomb. It's possible he's got other things he uses. I just have not seen him use them. So even though he's got a wide range of moves here, in terms of different equipment he could bring, I'm just not, I would never suggest bringing him unless you absolutely just loved him as a character. As for the different hunting horns, we've got 3 different hunting horns available to us. Hinoa has arguably the best song list for at least what sort of sets people are using now. She has 1 song that gives attack and defense. She has 1 song that gives health regen. I can't quite see it, but I think she might even have like health up small or health up regain or something on her hunting horn as well. It doesn't play a notification, but it feels like there should be a 3rd song there, and I think that's might be what it is. So all told, this is my favorite hunting horn to bring. If you're very confident in your hunting ability or your recovery ability or anything else like that, Utsushi is an interesting alternative choice. He gives attack up and elemental attack up. So attack up, if you didn't know, is 10% additional raw. Elemental attack up is 10% additional to element. Whether or not that's worth it to you to use Utsushi over Hinoa is really going to depend on your loadout. For me, if I'm running Berserk and Strife, I would way rather have the additional regen than the additional 10% elemental attack up. That's not only going to keep you up more often, that's going to keep your buddies and the followers up longer as well, but an argument can be made either way. And then he also has Blight Negate, which can be situationally useful. Not having to worry about fire, not having to worry about being KO'd by Thunder Blight. Stuff like that can be somewhat helpful. Obviously, Water Blight doesn't really do anything more. Ice Blight could be a little bit of an inconvenience depending on how much you rely on wire bugs. Finally, Minoto's hunting horn. She gives Divine Protection, which is okay, I guess. If it goes off, that's all right. She gives Sonic Barrier, which can or cannot be good. So Sonic Barrier kind of gives you rock steady for 1 attack. It'll make it so that you can keep attacking and not be interrupted if something hits you while it's up. Unfortunately, it does not give you any defense. So you'll take full damage from that hit, and then you'll take full damage from the second hit, which will probably hit you right after the first one. So it can be good or bad. So use it knowing only that, you might end up in a situation where you end up getting killed because you've used Sonic Barrier. Final song on our list is Stamina Use Down. So, of course, we've got unlimited stamina available to us now through Strife. So I don't see this being that helpful. If you were running, I don't know, Luchika and Minoto together, it wouldn't even make sense. She doesn't even have attack up. Makes no sense. So, really, probably going to be one of the least used hunting horns, but if you find a use for her, let me know down in the comments below. So in terms of different teams that, I like to run, the most obvious one, if you're using Berserk now, Gallius, with Switch Axe, and Hinoa with Hunting Horn is going to be the most consistent healing. Gallius periodically throwing out his various attack buffs, as well as an immunizer, plus Hinoa with health regen is going to help keep you alive the longest. If you want to have like a little bit of a mid-range in terms of dealing more damage, maybe you're not using Berserk, Hinoa with her Hunting Horn and Luchika with either bow or light bowgun are both great choices. If you're feeling particularly spicy, Luchika and Jay should technically be the most damage available. Jay on his Switch Axe does have a small amount of para. So you'll get some paraphile there. That might actually help synergize a little bit together in terms of helping Luchika get off a para, whether it be for her bow or one of her bowguns. Okay, and just to talk a little bit about my methodology, I did all of this testing against a Tobi Kadachi. I originally started using HunterPi, and it gave some information as to total damage of the followers. Unfortunately, it grouped them all together, and so I ended up throwing out basically all of that data. Following up with that, I've started to use Coavins damage and DPS overlay, which will be linked down in the description below, along with HunterPi. And I'm basically comparing my damage to the total amount of damage that the one follower has done. One thing to keep in mind, though, is whenever you hit a afflicted spot and it explodes, that deals damage that isn't attributed to either of you. Obviously, if a monster shows up and I try to reset if they did, that damage isn't counted as anyone either. So my rankings are more or less based off of their total damage and their relative damage, both towards my amount of damage as well as the total health of the monster. You know, in an ideal world, I would run every weapon at 10 to 20 times. As is, I did as many as I could without getting completely burnt out on Title Update 3, which is, of course, always a consideration. Okay, so hopefully this video has been of a little bit of help to you. If you liked it, make sure to go ahead and engage in all the ways you would do it on a YouTube video. Otherwise, I stream 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, twitch.tv/SDShepherd. Stream mostly Monster Hunter, but we're streaming some other variety recently as well. God knows that once we get Monster Hunter Rise on Xbox and PlayStation, I guess I'll be doing even more characters over there as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is Shepherd saying good luck and have a good hunt.